Hey everyone, welcome to Careers Out There, where we help you find a career that fits you. I'm Mark Luber, the host, and today we're talking to successful writer Brad Herzog. Brad, thanks for joining us at Careers Out There.
Happy to be here.
So what you're all watching now is a short version of this interview, and to learn more about being a writer, you can check out the full version of the interview at careersoutthere.com. Brad's a successful writer with over 24 published children's books. He also has a career as a freelance magazine writer. He's a professional blogger, and he's a critically acclaimed author of 3 travel memoirs. His most recent book is Turn Left at the Trojan Horse. Let's learn now from Brad. If someone's watching right now and they're thinking, I want to be a freelance writer, whether it's for sports or whether it's for something totally on maybe music or something unrelated, what's that path like? What is the life like if someone's living it? What is the pay like? How do you get paid? How do you get jobs? Tell us that. Let's learn what that's all about.
It's not easy, but it's a great. I love the lifestyle. I'm my own boss. I work at home. My job is to convince a magazine editor, as a magazine writer, my job is to convince an editor that my idea is worthy of a magazine story.
And so that editor is being hounded by writers from all over the place, competing for the same ink, right?
Yes, and there are lots of tricks of the trade, and we don't have time to go into all of them. But, well, for me, the best thing I did was cultivate relationships with editors. If I got one article in there, I do a good job with it. I'm easy to work with. I'm professional. I write it well, and that'll get me a second story, And that over the years, when I was really doing a lot of magazine writing, I had a handful of magazines that were my go-to magazines that I would write for. But truly my favorite part of the job is my ideas. I have 2 huge filing cabinets in my office that are filled with folders filled with ideas. My job is to take my imagination, turn it into ideas, grab those ideas when they come to me, and write a good letter, a query letter it's called, to a magazine editor, telling them what my idea is, why I'm the right person to write it, and why it's right for their magazine. So I have to know their magazine well, and I have to know the editor well, and I have to write this query letter well, and convince them that it's a good idea. Cornell Alumni Magazine is an example. That's the one magazine I've written for 19 years. I've written articles about Jimmy Smits, who's a Cornell graduate, the actor Jimmy Smits, a Sesame Street writer that I found, and what's it like to write for Sesame Street. A transgender politician who, if she gets elected, used to be a man, now is a woman. If she gets elected to the Maryland legislature this year, she'll be the first ever state-level transgender politician. That's a great story. How could they possibly pass up that story? But I had to find that story. So locating these stories is important. And then I have to convince the editor that it's worthy of their magazine. And then they'll send me a contract, or sometimes often I work without a contract with a lot of these magazines these days. In fact, usually. They'll say, okay, we want you to write this story. We need it by May 15th. It should be 3,000 words long, and we're going to pay you 75 cents a word. And then I'll go from there. But the pay...
And do they have a word limit there? Is there a limit on the words? Do you say, I'll stuff as many words in there?
I wish. There's definitely a limit. It's much easier for me to write long than it is to write short. And I want to put it all in there. I want to tell my story poetically. And when you have a limit of words, you have to really be sparse with what your words, and you have to edit and re-edit until you got. Usually, when I write something that's supposed to be 3,000 words, my first draft is about 4,500 words.
Is it kind of like the publication bases a certain rate per word, or is it also based on how much experience you have? Do they say, well, it's this much per word if you've written for us before, but since you haven't, you're worth half of that?
It's probably a little of both. It's not as itemized as you would think. Like, it's just sort of what they offer generally. I wrote an article for Reader's Digest once, and I think I got almost $3 a word. So I got about 5,000. I think I got about $5,000 for a 1,500 word story. I've written for other magazines where I'll write 1,000 words and they'll pay me $300. So there's $300 versus $5,000. It really varies. It's hard to get those high-paying ones. It's hard to cobble together a living with those kinds of numbers.
So then that's something that everyone should know, right?
Yeah.
Is that, would we say that is this red magic marker territory? Should everyone get out their red magic markers right now? Everyone, this is Red Magic Marker territory. Brad is saying it's hard to scrabble together a living as a freelance writer, but you still enjoy it and it's rewarding.
Yeah, it's very rewarding, as a lifestyle especially, and as a person who's intellectually curious. For me to be able to enter all these lives and look at the world through a writer's eyes, where everything I see is fodder for a story. Anytime the phone rings or the email clicks, it could be somebody on the other end saying, we want you to do something interesting.
Hey everyone, to learn more about the different ways to have a writing career, you can watch the full interview at careersouthere.com. Brad's going to share how to find work as a writer, what the money is like, what the lifestyle is like, the biggest challenges of the career path, some keys to success, and much more. Brad, thanks again for joining us.
My pleasure, Mark.
Thanks for watching, everyone. I'm Mark Luber, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.